At his press conference, Joe Judge made it sound like the Giants are going to do interviews for at least a couple of weeks before hiring some coordinators, but here we are just, I think, 4 or 5-ish days later, and they hired Patrick Graham as their defensive coordinator. So Patrick Graham was the defense coordinator for the Dolphins last year. Let's run through some of his stops during his career. He played football at Yale. That was his college career. So back in 2009, a coaching assistant with the Patriots. He was with the Patriots from 2009 to 2015. Funny enough, joined the Giants staff in 2016 with Ben McAdoo. He was part of his staff for 2 seasons as a defensive line coach. Back to New England, he was a linebackers coach for the Patriots and a defensive backs coach for a little bit as well. So he has experience with the Patriots and obviously coached with Joe Judge. I wrote that down as well. So he's coached with Joe Judge, or not, with him, but on the same team as him from, where did I write it? 2012 to 2015. So they have, 4 seasons together, basically. Won a Super Bowl with the Patriots in 2014. I'm sure a lot of you want to know about the scheme and stuff like that. He said before last season at least, that he wants to do both. I mean, a reporter asked him, do you run a 4-3 or 3-4? His answer was yes, and basically alluding to the fact that he likes to run both. There have been tweets about it as well, so he runs both 4-3 and 3-4. I know majority of this fan base wanted to see a 4-3 defense permanently because that's what we're used to, but he will do both. So what else did I miss? It's kind of confusing for him because it's a lateral move. Of course, going from defensive coordinator from one team to defense coordinator for another team is kind of interesting. Usually you think it's an upgrade or you're getting a benefit out of it, but maybe he just likes the position the Giants are in more. Maybe he has more of a relationship with Joe Judge as compared to the people with the Miami Dolphins. I know he's kind of close with Brian Flores, who also has input on the defense with the Dolphins. But speaking of the Dolphins, I know this is going to come up a few times probably in the comments, so I'm going to say it now. Don't pay attention to the Dolphins' defensive rankings on defense last year. I mean, it was a very tough year for them. They traded basically most of their good players. I think their top corner, Xavier Howard, missed quite a few games as well. Minka Fitzpatrick got traded. Robert Quinn went to the Cowboys, as we know. So they did not have much talent on that defense for the Dolphins. They got better as the season went on, so that's definitely a positive. But really, the first 5-6 games for the Dolphins were not good at all. But at the same time, Brian Flores does have a lot of input on defensive play calling and stuff like that. So you can't blame Patrick Graham for all this. You can't just look at the defensive rankings for this team in 2019 and assume this guy's a bad defensive coordinator. So I don't think that's fair for him. I don't have much of a reaction to this move. I mean, it's a wait and see, kind of just like Joe Judge. I mean, of course, I think most of us are on board with Joe Judge after the press conference, but this is the type of move that we have to just wait and see. And I mean, I think with James Betcher, I think all of us were very excited because he had some good rankings in Arizona, but we, I guess, forgot that he had some very good players in Arizona. I remember I talked about it 2 years ago when I first started doing commentaries. I was like, well, this guy had Calais Campbell and Tyrann Mathieu and Patrick Peterson in Arizona, so he had some very good talent there, but this is the opposite, where the guy did not have much talent in Miami. Now has to come here. There's currently not too much talent on the Giants defense, but hopefully via free agency or through the draft or maybe a trade or two, the Giants can acquire some defensive talent. So talent wins games. I think we should know that. There are cases where coaching can definitely win games. We see it sometimes, but for the most part, talent rules all. So I think as long as the Giants have some good talent here next year, they should be fine defensively. If they have the same kind of nonsense with Grant Haley and Corey Ballantyne playing slot corner full-time, it might be another rough year. If they have an Alec Ogletree at inside linebacker, it might be a tough year once again, but I think they'll be better next year. So, look, I don't have a strong opinion with this move. It's like, we'll see. I mean, there's not much to say about him. Watching interviews with him, seems like a good guy. He's not the type of coach that I would I don't want to say hate, but not the type of coach I wouldn't like. He seems like a likable guy. He laughs a lot. I'm sure it really depends if he's a good teacher. And I think this is good news and should bode well, because if he was hired this early in the interview process, I mean, there's not much news that comes out about, Giants interviewing coordinators. We hear about the head coaching interviews, but I don't hear much about coordinator interviews. So this is different. I don't know when they hired Patrick Graham, but to say, for him to be hired on Sunday, and I think Judge had the press conference on Tuesday or Thursday, it probably speaks volumes because this might have been a guy that was high on his list. So hopefully Joe Judge got the guy he wanted. Of course, offensive coordinator is still open, so we're not sure what's going to happen there. The Dolphins did fire their OC from 2019 or this past season. I think Chad O'Shea from the New England Patriots. So you never know. Something could happen there with him. Speaking of Brian Flores, there was a quote about Flores talking about Patrick Graham, and he went on to say this about him. Pat is a Yale guy. He's extremely bright. He is great with the fundamentals and has a very strong leadership ability. I can't say enough about the good things about him. We work together in New England, and I know the type of passion he has and the way he works. We have some of the same core values and beliefs from a defensive standpoint. So, some good things about him. I would not expect Brian Flores to come out and speak poorly about his current defensive coordinator at the time, but at the same time, you have to kind of take some of those with a grain of salt. So they were good quotes, and I guess I'm excited for this. I mean, he's still a pretty young guy, only 40 years old, and been with the Patriots, obviously. Same roots as Joe Judge for the most part, so hopefully that helps. He was with the Packers last year. I forget what the actual role was. It was like a lot of things. So they called it defensive run game coordinator and inside linebackers coach. So a couple of things there thrown into one. Back in 2009 was a coaching assistant. That's how a lot of these guys start off. And then 2010 was defensive assistant coach. So after that, went to linebackers, then defensive line. And yeah, so worked his way up. I guess there's no easy way in the NFL anyway. So I like the fact that he went to Yale. Probably proves he's a bright guy, just like Joe Judge is. So hopefully these guys, mesh together and work well. So we'll see. Not exactly sure how it's going to work. He could be the next James Bettcher, but I honestly don't think it could be that bad again. So hopefully this hire works out. We'll see what we get at offensive coordinator. Let me know who you guys want as offensive coordinator. I have a few names in mind, and they're probably going to hire someone I don't even know about because honestly I did not know much about Patrick Graham before this hire anyway. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As I said, let me know in the comments who you want as offensive coordinator, and I'll talk to you guys next time.